Welcome, Ultraers and Switchy sisters alike, to episode 20 of the weekly episodic gaming adjacent livestream podcast show. This is Switch to Ultra. Back on Mondays forever and always. We had a lot planned to talk about exclusively on this installment of our show. And then 6 hours ago, on the Nintendo page, on the Kirby page, and on Sakurai's account, they announced a Kirby Air Riders Direct for tomorrow morning, which definitely changes some things. Knowing we just got a lot of information on Pokemon Legends ZA, and know we're about to get a lot of information on Kirby Air Riders. It really does prove that Metroid Prime game is never gonna come out. Welcome to the Switch to Ultra family. I'm your co-parent, BH Ultra.
And I am your co-parent, Switchy.
On stream, I created a donation goal last year called the So Retro Game Fund that chatters would donate so that I would play the game of their choice, full, complete in-box. And the winner of that fund was Chibi-Robo for the Nintendo Gamecube, a game I still have not finished as we speak, only to find out recently that the game would be coming to Nintendo Switch Online. Depending on who you ask, makes this built-in emulator a multi-$100 deal. I saw a post that said that was like calculating all the GameCube games you could play on the Switch 2 together and using like their eBay listings. And for GameCube games, those are notoriously expensive.
Oh god, yeah.
It could be a multitude of things. I feel like it is sort of, I've heard it's like, oh, it's a combination of high demand, of course, but also, you know, the GameCube didn't do super well, so they didn't make a whole lot of, they didn't print a whole lot of those games. I don't know how true that is. I do think demand is a factor, because sometimes there will be a game that nobody really plays, and then it'll just go viral, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I could sell this for hundreds of dollars.
Sorry, I got like distracted for a second because I got reminded of why I forget why it happened. I don't know if it's because of the definitive edition, but you're reminding me of back in like 2015 and 2020, Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii was like $100+. Like that's how much it normally went for.
Mm-hmm.
And a year or two ago, I went to a convention. Actually, we might have been MomoCon. It might have been you and me. We saw it for like $20. I don't know why I didn't get it. I guess I was just thinking like, well, I don't need it that much. Mm-hmm. But that always surprised me because I guess there's a large constituency of like retro game fans that only buy retro because they don't want to emulate or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I mean, I'll admit it. I might get sued. I mean, a lot of times when there's a game that I really want to play, that there's no easy way of playing it.
No,
you know, for example, Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance, or Radiant Dawn. Both of those games, at least last time I checked, go for over $100 on eBay. What I'll do is I'll use a little something called Dolphin Emulator.
Ooh.
And well, I never played Radiant Dawn, but so
I would never.
But I guess there's actually I literally have not played Radiant Dawn, but there's a large amount of people I think that literally just kind of do it that way. They just I don't know. I mean, it's weird because to me at this point, and maybe this is my digital brain rot, my I won't own anything brain rot. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of times where at this point, often buying physical is more of just, it's almost akin to buying merchandise. Like I bought one really old game in the past few years, and that was Earthbound, and that's because it's a special game for me.
But I don't really make a habit. Game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've played it. I bought it on the Wii U. I bought it on the 3DS. And I wanted to buy it on the SNES, even though it was expensive as hell, just for the kind of novelty of owning such a special game to me. But I don't really make a habit out of that for anything else. And I guess I assume that's the main market kind of driver for at least old school physical games is the collector. But I don't know. I mean, if I wanted to play Earthbound, well, I did. I emulated Earthbound when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I guess I just wonder what specifically kind of drives retro prices up. I do know that there's a lot of forget what it is. There are certain kind of there's a certain authority that rates the value or the condition of retro games. I think that a lot of people hate. I don't know the drama around that.
The wizard.
Oh, what's that?
No, I was doing a bit about the what is it, the garage sale guy, the garage sale wizard that stands up on the stage with the megaphone and says, this is worth $50. But no, I don't actually know who the authority on those things are.
I remember people complaining about something like that, but I forget the details.
For me, it's like, not a difference enough that I would be like, oh, everyone needs to play it like this. It is just like a preference thing. And I prefer to play games on their original hardware because I do think so much of that factors into the experience of the game. And it's sort of the reason that I am not as kind to something like Ocarina of Time as other people are. Because whenever I hear people talk about it, so like lovingly or singing its praises, I know that they either one grew up with it or two played it for the first time on the GameCube or on the 3DS or on the Wii, because playing native Ocarina of Time on the N64 is a miserable experience. Like doing that as an adult. Sorry, go ahead.
What's the difference between Ocarina on like the Wii versus the N64?
It's the
Is it a
controller more often than not, is that
Oh.
so many, like, if you complain about Ocarina of Time platforming, the response is like, well, it's not a platformer, which is true, but that doesn't account for how many opportunities there are in Ocarina of Time where the puzzle or the difficulty is just holding forward and then Link will automatically jump over a gap. But when you're dealing with a plastic joystick that doesn't often go entirely straight every time, he, more often than not, and maybe I just suck at the game, I don't know, will just jump off of whatever you're trying to scatter through. And I know that early Zelda games, like the gimmick was that like, oh, Link does not have a jump button. That wasn't until something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. And that would be fine.
We have de-emphasized platforming.
Mm-hmm. Which, like, would be fine if the puzzles were still top-down or if there was no platforming-based puzzles or exploration in that game, but there's a surprising amount of platforming in that game just because, like, oh, you're moving in a 3D environment. Of course you have to jump from one bridge to the next thing, but when you're playing on N64, and for me it's also just like, from an aesthetic standpoint, the game running on its original hardware, especially because I like to play on a CRT TV. Again, I'm saying this from a standpoint of preference, not from like a gatekeepy, like, well, if you haven't played it this way, you haven't really played the game.
Your opinion on Ocarina of Time means nothing if you played it outside of the N64.
Yeah, whatever. I'm glad
I'm saying that like sarcastically.
Yeah, well, everyone has a very defined and argumentative opinion about Ocarina of Time, without the context of just being like, yeah, I mean, it's really, I haven't had the pleasure, and I think this is why I am specific about playing it on hardware and also a time-accurate television, is I haven't gone back to play it since I played it for the channel, and that was on the N64, but it was also on a flat screen, and it looked awful. So maybe if I went back to play it on CRT, I would have a better experience, at least from a visual standpoint, because I do think that there are a lot of games that straight up just look better on the CRT. We talked about it with our good, close personal friend Brenofloss on the Switch to Ultra podcast. That
we went for a beer afterwards.
Yeah, and before and during. It's gotta get this for your birthday. It was for Switchmas. But for me, it's not a sense of, I just like having it. Like, I like playing on the console because I feel like then I am experiencing it the way that everyone else experienced it. The same way whenever people told me about like Dragon Ball, like, oh shit, you gotta watch this, I wasn't looking for the most recent Funimation one on like Verve or Crunchyroll. I was trying to find an Internet Archive link of the dub that they aired on Toonami. Because if I watch it, I want to experience it the same way people my age experienced it growing up. And that's why I was a little disappointed when Toonami Rewind started airing on Adult Swim, that they used the more updated dubs. And I'm sure people who are big fans of anime appreciate that because it's more accurate. But I kind of like that jank. You know, I want to be immersed in that time. I want to watch it the way people did. And the same argument for something like Star Wars, like constantly changing it. But that's neither here nor
Especially
there.
for these big 90s anime where there's effectively kind of an identity to the show that comes from the original localization of it. I think there's a lot of Goku's original voice. I mean, actually, I don't know about the other dubs, but I do know, you know, the original old school Goku voice, at least the English Goku voice. And I assume that, you know, the more dubs there are, I think there's less of a consistent point of reference between fans of the show. And honestly, in a lot of ways, you'll probably be more in tune with other fans of Dragon Ball Z if you watch the old dub, at least when it comes to other people who watched, like at least people who watched it as kids, you know?
I can understand why you would want to get someone started with like a better version of it, but if I want to actually know what people were thinking and feeling at the time, I like the immersion aspect. It's the same way, like, if I get a Game Boy Advance game that I'm playing on stream and I don't know where I'm going, I like to get the, like, physical strategy guide as opposed to, like, looking up a walkthrough, because I'm like, oh, this is what people would have done at the time. I'm a retro
Yeah.
LARPer.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fun part of the whole thing. I was actually going to ask you, what looked bad about your N64 on a flat screen? I'm just curious.
It's specifically Ocarina of Time that uses realistic textures that are all very like mossy brown and green
Oh yeah,
that
it's true.
really blend together, especially when you're trying to find specific parts that it's hard to tell. It's sort of like an optical illusion. Like sometimes you can't tell where there is a turn or where a wall ends because the wall behind it is the same consistency, so it sort of blends together. Where I think
Oh yeah.
that a lot of on a CRT, like more pixelated images, and I think N64 games just in general look better on a CRT, but you mentioned Dolphin, and there are like some HD N64 emulators that
Yeah.
make it like put it in HD and technically make it look better and run better. But in doing so, you just notice how many things in those games are just like PNGs or just like really pixelated posters.
Yeah.
But I have nothing against emulators. It is just a preference thing. But for me, I use it more as an opportunity to play with people online. Because if Nintendo's going to
Yeah.
drip feed their things, and also, not everyone has a Switch too. If I want to play Mario Party 4 with people, I'm going to get on Dolphin and then load up Parsec, and they don't even need to own anything. They can just play it off of their computers. And also,
Yeah.
yeah, games like Double Dash or even like Wii games, playing Brawl or Melee. We've been doing that a lot lately, and different Smash mods. This is a really big year for Smash mods. Like I said last week, that we're really feeling the 7 years without a new Smash game, but there have been some really promising Melee 64 and even Brawl mods the Brawl mods still in development that we've really enjoyed playing on top of continuing drawing our characters inside Castle Crashers. And that's totally fine. But I do think some people argue a game preservationist point when they really just, I don't know. I'm not going to tell anyone that they have to buy something, if you really don't want to pay for games, because the argument is always like, oh, we can't afford it. What, just because I can't afford it, I shouldn't play the game? But then I know people who, like, their Switches only exist as an emulator. And then online, I remember when I was researching the Smash Bros. Video that people had the ROM of the game like a week after release, and they're like, oh, we don't even have to buy it. Like, we can emulate it. Like, I guess if you're just vehemently anti-Nintendo, I don't want to sound like a shill, even though I feel like I often do, but you don't want to even try buying the game like a week after release. You don't want to wait a little bit.
I mean, one thing for me is that generally, maybe not always, but a lot of the time, playing through, I guess, the quote unquote intended avenues is often more pleasant than emulating it. Because I don't want to, I mean, I never bother to try and get Yuzu to work on
Mm-hmm.
my Nintendo on my computer. I mean, it might have worked fine. I just remember as a kid trying to get, I think, Citra, which is a 3DS emulator to work. That
Yes.
was kind of annoying. It didn't work. It worked better when I was an adult. So maybe I was just being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for a lot of the PlayStation 1 emulation. I because of that, often if there's a game that's I can buy through traditional avenues and play it that way, I'll usually do that over emulation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I'm not really in the it's such a for me it's such a non-issue.
Yeah.
I think for me it's not even the cost of entry when it comes to emulating, or I mean when it comes to collecting old games. It's more just the amount of space it takes up and the kind of, I remember as a kid trying to have like my N64, my GameCube, my Wii, and my Wii U all connected to one TV. And of
Mm-hmm.
course that's a nightmare. I just can't, I don't have the patience for it.
No, I got that. I love it. I remember seeing that all the time as a kid. Dude, when I was at my mom's second place, like late teenagers before moving out, I I always prioritize space over comfort. So I slept in like this dinky stone brick basement that didn't have a ceiling. Like it just had that puffy stuff that hangs down. But I was like, oh, I have so much space around here. And I had so many CRT TVs or just like old monitors that people were throwing away. So I set it up like an arcade where like every couple feet there was a different TV with a different console generation set up to it. But there was one outlet in that basement. So I ran like a dozen power strips so it could reach around the room to be able to play all of those or have different setups for them. And more often than not, like my friends thought it was cool, I guess, and that's why I early on as a kid like was really getting into retro stuff. Is that despite or on top of being the only person that had a Wii U. So my friends who normally played like Call of Duty or Halo or whatever be like, oh, let's play Nintendo Land for a little bit. And then when I got an N64, I'm like, guys, let's play GoldenEye and Bomberman 64. And we legitimately had a fun time. So I always liked having those as an option for people. But it is one of those things where you go to a convention and they often have like the retro game setup. They have all these different TVs that it's a lot more appealing when you don't have those things. It's like owning a bowling alley in your house or like a pool. Like it's really fun. You think like, "Oh, if I had those things, I would use them all the time." I'm not speaking from experience. I've never will or never have owned either of those things. But I imagine like I do like bowling on occasion, but I imagine if I had one in my house that I don't know, do it like once a month, maybe even less because it's there. And having all of these consoles, I feel like I don't use them as often as I would like to, which is I'm trying to use like streaming as an excuse. And that's why I was like, oh, we'll load up Chibi-Robo and play it on the GameCube. There is a certain level, like I think N64 games backwards. Obviously, I have a level of nostalgia about playing the actual Wii when I'm playing Wii games. But honestly, with GameCube games forwards, I think you could really play them on anything. Like, I don't think that playing Chibi-Robo on the GameCube and playing Chibi-Robo on the Switch 2 is going to be that different of an experience, like at all.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny we're having talking about this because it just occurred to me that I have an N64 and I've played probably a good 10 to 15 N64 games in the last 10 years, but I haven't opened or turned on or plugged in my Nintendo 64 since 2015 because if I had to choose between I don't know. I mean, I like the N64 is set up in another room. It involves kind of having to plug it in, plug something else out. I might have to get an adapter for I forget what they're called, the RCA cables.
Yes.
I'm really that is a big blind spot for me. The way TVs and TV connections work or HDMI. But
I mean, more often than that, you
I would just I'd rather play Banjo-Kazooie on my computer or on the Switch.
Yeah.
I
think I just like playing games on the TV. Like, if I'm playing a game at my desk, it's either for a stream or because I'm playing online with people. I'm not one to, like, sit at my
your
desk.
TV is also, like, feet from your computer. So
True.
it's definitely, I think, different for you. Because I don't have a TV in my room. So, there's definitely... I have to make a big effort to be in a different space when I play stuff on my TV.
There is a pleasure that I've missed for a lot of time of having, like, a console in a living room area. Like, I feel like I haven't done that in a while. I guess it's tough because, like, roommates and you have different lives and you're constantly, like, moving on different schedules. But it was nice to, either when it was siblings or when nobody was working, just like, oh, let's go hang out in the living room and play whatever we have there.
Yeah. I definitely don't miss having to share a TV with my mom. That's the thing. That's how it was with the Wii. And,
when they added Netflix to the Wii, my sisters always wanted to use, because it was the only thing that in the house that had Netflix, because it was a pretty new thing when it was like an online service before or after the mail-in service, that like it wasn't on TVs, there were no Roku sticks, it wasn't on the computer or phone. If you wanted to watch Netflix, you had to watch it on the Wii. So I could not like play Mario Galaxy because they were always watching The Office on the Wii, and I remember really like it pissed me off because they weren't using it to play video games.
It actually reminds me that you say that because one of the biggest selling points in the Wii U's ad campaign was that you can still fucking play your Wii U when your annoying family members want to use the TV.
Yeah.
Which I just think is hilarious. It's like, oh, you can just turn the Wii, you just play on the gamepad or use your Wii U gamepad as a fucking TV remote. I never set that up, but it's kind of funny that was a thing.
I feel like more often than not, because I had the Wii U in my room and like a small TV, not small enough that like I couldn't see it from far away, but like when I played the Wii U by myself most of the time, I didn't even bother with the TV. Like I just played it in my bed on my Wii U
interesting. I think I didn't like the way the Wii U pad. I mean, it was like 480p. I think I just didn't like it enough to use it that much. But now that I think about it, I think I took my Wii out of the family room, the kind of like family room, I guess.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something different, but probably after a year and a half of having it, because I had it in a different room. Eventually, when I was like 13, I had the bright idea of taking my console and plugging it into the same monitor I do with my computer, and that just like changed my life. I could just kind of Skype on one freaking screen, Xenoblade X on the other. That definitely changes the way you interact with video games.
It changes the game.
Literally.
I see people now talk about brain rot or the idea of like, oh, having your Subway Surfers on the top of the screen and other stuff on the bottom. It's like, oh man, what? How did we get to this point? When did this happen? Oh, my attention span is so short. But I feel like even as a kid, like I used to watch cartoons on the TV while playing on my DS. And then when I had an iPod Touch, I would watch YouTube on my iPod while playing games on the Wii U. Like I feel like this dual monitor, or rather dual attention setup, has always been a thing, at least as far as I've been alive, or as long as I've been alive. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
necessarily like a recent thing. I do understand why people think it's gotten worse, but I feel like it's not a new thing. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
like social scare that people think are new things. I didn't make a thing about it, but I was scrolling on TikTok, which I do very seldom recently because it's been depressing me more and more. And there are some things that it's just like, oh, this isn't worth. Like, I don't want to start a fight about this with people that I more often than not agree with. I just disagree with this one thing. But there is a lot of, I mean, people constantly talking about the new generation, like, oh man, Gen Alpha's cooked. Like it's over for them. Their attention spans are shot ever since the pandemic. They're so disrespectful, declining reading levels. You know, I'm not a teacher. I don't want to discredit teachers. I don't know how true that is. But I saw this video. I think it was posted by an actual like news aggregate on TikTok. And it was this teacher and she was talking about modern cringe culture. And I think that was, I didn't actually listen to it, but that was part of what was brought up, or rather like the mission statement of don't tap the glass. I just know that that was a conversation piece that came up because of that album. And she was talking about it, and what she landed on like stuck with me, as she said, "Oh, nowadays because of how often people are constantly like posting about each other, recording each other, or just constantly surveilling each other, kids are too afraid to raise their hand in case they might get the answer wrong or embarrass themselves in class." And
Oh
I
yeah,
remember
bro. That's some
hearing
bullshit.
that, and I'm like, dude, it's been like, it was like that when I was a kid. Like, that's not different.
Dude, I was so scared of my teachers. I remember one time in 4th grade, I was bleeding all over my hand, and it took me like a good several minutes to gather the confidence to tell my teacher that I was bleeding.
Yeah.
And she actually she didn't even care that much when it happened. So I guess, she
You
didn't
were
yell at
right
me,
to
but I
be
was like
afraid.
really I was really concerned that she was gonna like yell at me because I was bleeding. She
Hmm.
didn't yell at me, but she's like, "Oh my God." She like said that. Or she didn't maybe so I was like my blood was going down my arm, and
Hmm.
my friends were telling me to tell the teacher, and I didn't want to.
The context you're leaving out is your arm was bleeding actually every day of class, and this was like the 50th straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, no, I was so terrified of my teachers because I don't know, like every single time I talked to my teacher, I would leave the conversation feeling like I was an idiot, or
Yeah.
or I was like bad or whatever, you know. So I don't think that's new. I think children, especially kids who are sensitive to criticism, being wary around adults is a very normal thing.
Hmm.
Um, I guess I mean I was just kind of like going down the rabbit hole, but I think it often takes a certain amount of extending outwards to get a kid like that to
Yeah.
be comfortable around adult, if it's even possible. It probably is. Yeah,
It
I mean, it's
depends. I think
I do think a lot of the kids these days shit is just bullshit. I mean, maybe a good amount of it. A lot of it could just be wider societal issues, but I think a lot of the things people are worried about Gen Alpha now, people were worried about with us, you
yeah.
know?
Also,
So it
like,
makes me
kids grow up and get average intelligence. Like, I know there are some dumb adults out there, and this is something that I'm also like, oh, do I need to make a big thing about or like say something about? Because it's gonna sound like I'm defending it, and I'm definitely not. I'm not defending it. I just want to give my 2 cents about maybe comforting people a little bit about it, about the folding, the government folding of PBS, and that they intend to replace it with that fucking PragerU cartoon where they're trying to rehabilitate Christopher Columbus, and he's like, slavery actually isn't that bad. And that is awful. That is disgusting. But I've seen a bunch of people being like, oh man, these kids are going to grow up and they're not going to know any different. Like, this is how you brainwash people. But, I mean, I went to a Catholic school, and that's the shit they were teaching us anyway. Like, even
well, yeah,
without
that's a big part of it.
PBS, like, I don't think a kid, I think it's possible that, kids are going to grow up with that, but I also don't think it's impossible that they can then become an adult, gather adult intelligence, and be like, oh, okay, that was bullshit. Got it. That's what happened to
Yeah, I think it's
me.
that kind of stuff's very common. I think the kind of things that people are taught in school, for example, or taught on TV don't necessarily influence their day-to-day or what they eventually believe politically.
I had a
one way or
religion
another.
class, and they literally showed us PragerU videos. Even at the time when I was a teenager, I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. Why are you showing us this? Why is the amazing
Yeah, and I
atheist
mean,
on my screen?
when you go even younger, I mean, especially I grew up in the Obama era. Okay, so like at
Back
this
when things
point,
were
I think
cool.
back when things were cool, I guess, not really. At that point in American politics, I think, well, it's very different than what it is now. I mean, I think 2016 really shook things up, and the relationship between TV, politics, and everything in between was changed a lot after Trump kind of was elected president. But I think to the fact that is the implication that Michelle Obama being on iCarly did that much for the Democratic Party?
It indoctrinated children.
It's like I think my mom, I think I wasn't watching iCarly anymore at that point, but if I was and my mom saw that, she would have like rolled her eyes. And my mom, I guess I should like preface my mom I think voted Republican, but I don't think that that kind of bumping shoulders and the stupid shit that happens on kids television really affects kids to that extent. Maybe in some ways, but I think even as a kid, I realized seeing stories like that, because I didn't watch the episode, it was obviously like a bumping shoulders thing, and it's not something I'm supposed to take that seriously.
Yeah.
I also remember when I was in second grade, Obama had just been, what's the word, inaugurated. That's it. So I remember we had like a class, and this would not happen a day, like either like from either direction, just because I think
they had a moment of silence.
Like nowadays politically, there's just too much. It's just I think it's too divisive. We had a class assignment where we all had to write the president a letter. So I wrote a letter to Barack Obama. And I love thinking about that because I know for a fact that shit was not happening in 2017. Like there was no classroom. Maybe in some, like, I don't even think that would be a thing in Catholic schools, to be honest.
We had a mock election. Like we had this, they asked all the students to vote. I don't remember voting in that, so maybe it was just like the older students or whatever. For 2016, I remember the day that he was elected, or like going into school the next day was miserable. But even before then, in my Catholic conservative school, he won by like a 97% margin. Like it was a complete blowout amongst the children at my school.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
that just gives you a notion of what the school I went to was like. So again, I don't think that I've been going to like conservative Catholic school my entire life. I think that you can break out of it. Like, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's actually quite easy to grow up and then just question your thoughts.
You're watching a PragerU video today. You watch one, and then it tells you something that awakens something in you, like a sleeper agent.
I forgot he said that.
But this is kind of an aside question. I'm curious.
Sure.
For you as someone who was probably in like 10th grade when it was happening, which of the two candidates between Clinton and Trump did you think would win?
Hillary, I think.
You thought Hillary? I thought Hillary would win too.
Yeah. Well, because like cautious optimism. Up to that point, I had only ever known like a passive Democratic Obama like lifetime.
Yeah.
That he was elected when I was 7. So I saw this insane man that people were posting about on like Reddit and 4chan and shit, saying awful, evil things, and then Shmo Yoho was like, "This guy's a monster."
Shmo Yoho.
Yeah, from Songify the News. That's how I learned that he was running, from Shmo Yoho. And
I remember a friend told me that Donald Trump was in 2015. He told me Donald Trump was running, and he was going to rename the country to the United States of Trump, because that was like a pre-2016 election Trump joke. Like Trump names things after himself.
Mm-hmm. But now we just got the Gulf of America. No, it wasn't even like, oh God, I hope Hillary wins, or like, oh I'm counting the votes, I'm pretty sure she's gonna win. Nothing had ever like shaken me that much in my lifetime. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but like, this had never happened to me as long as I was like sentient and aware of things. So I didn't even know that it was a possibility that she could lose. It like when it happened, I was like, whoa, is the world over? Like, what happened?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I think especially growing up in Miami, Florida, because back at this point, Florida was not a hard red state, at least not in the same way it is now. Obama won 08, he won 12, and then I think Trump did win in Florida in 2016, but I think at least in the South Florida, Miami area, it was a lot more split. So I think I always assume Hillary would win. Did I say Hillary? I meant to say Hillary. I'm not
slip. She's using her Russian mind control to get to you, man.
But, you know, one of the things that I always found interesting is that people our age, we never really, at least we weren't really conscious of U.S. politics during the Bush era. But it's funny. I think I'm not sure if you relate, but as a kid or a young teenager, I would watch things like Family Guy.
I was about to mention Robot Chicken. Like, I only know George W. Bush in the context of that show.
And those kinds of shows, especially during their heydays, quote unquote, at least I assume Robot Chicken's heyday was around that time.
Sure.
Was so built off of Bush era politics. And it's interesting. I think the, you know, like a lot of the atheist YouTuber kind of, I don't want to say craze, but that kind of big movement, I think in the early 10s was also really built off of the Bush era politics from the previous decade. But that was a thing that I was never exposed to because I think I was too young to really be exposed to it. And then in the aftermath, I think I grew up in the Obama era, which is a whole different era. And I guess the point is just interesting to see how the pendulum swings politically and culturally and how those things kind of work off of each other. So yeah, I guess I didn't even think of Trump winning as possible because for the previous 8 years, I always assumed like Republicans were kind of seen as just, you know, unwinnable buffoons. Yeah, that's kind of what they were, at least before 2016. After that, they were buffoons, but they won the election, you know?
Yeah, now they're just like a bunch of teenage boys who are like, people won't have sex with me anymore. What's going on? You need to ruin everything about it. I've been hearing about this guy for like a decade now politically, and I'm tired of it. But like I said at the beginning of this cast, that I had some things that were worth talking about. You know, Pokémon Worlds happened between the last episode and this one, and there was surprisingly a lot of Legend ZA information there. Like, I didn't even think that was going to be a thing that we would talk about. I'm like, oh, there's like a big tournament happening. But a bunch of people flew out or were flown out, and a lot of them played the ZA demo, and there's a lot of footage of that, and then Pokemon themselves released a lot of footage. On top of that, you know, there was the release of Drag X Drive for the Nintendo Switch 2, and I tried to get caught up on other Switch 2 games, and those are going to be the main things to discuss. However, 6 hours before we went live on this podcast, it was announced that there's going to be a Kirby Air Riders Direct tomorrow morning. So in less than 24 hours from right now. And it's going to be a 40-minute direct hosted by Masahiro Sakurai.
Wait, 40 minutes? I forgot about that. That's insane.
This one I'm much more excited for than like the Bonanza Direct or the Mario Kart Direct, because we had little glimpses there and they were close to release. So I'm like, I don't want to know too much about them. It's like whenever they did the Pikmin 4 Direct back then, I was like, oh, I don't want to know what's going to happen in the game. I want it to all surprise me. But we know nothing about Kirby Air Riders. We don't have a release date. I mentioned offhandedly last week, I'm like, oh, and Gamescom is happening between this pod we're currently recording and the next one. It actually starts tomorrow or maybe a couple days from now, and then it ends on next Monday. And I said like, oh, but they never show games off there. Apparently that Kirby Air Riders is going to have a working demo there, like a one that you can play at Gamescom. And Nate the Hate had like a little eye emoji, just like, oh, there's going to be something at Gamescom. So I want to know what your level of Kirby fan is, because I think we differ a little bit on the Nintendo games. Even like the 3D Marios and now the 3D Donkey Kongs, I think we have about the same level, and something like Pokemon as well. But definitely you have more expertise in something like Fire Emblem or Xenoblade. And then we had Wyatt on for a lot of Metroid stuff. I want to know where you fall as like a Kirby fan or like an acquaintance of his.
I'll say it, you know, maybe a little bit harshly. I've had a hard time trying to give a shit about Kirby. Like, I'll just say it. I mean, I played Superstar Ultra on the DS as a kid. Yes. It was like, I never really felt very compelled to, you know, beat it or whatever. I remember playing it. And that's that game, it has like separate individual games within it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the time I'd play the game and I don't even know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to. And what I mean by that, is this the fun, literally, is this the fun part of the game? Like, it's mildly entertaining, I've never gotten that into it. I played Triple Deluxe. Once again, it was like, oh yeah, it's cool. Like I don't know. I've always had a really hard time feeling strongly about the games. I feel like I've played a handful of others, but I don't know. It's just never wowed me. One
Yeah.
thing I will say though is that the original Kirby Air Ride, that was like one of the first Nintendo games I ever played, because my older cousins in Jacksonville, they had a GameCube with Air Ride, and I remember playing it when I was probably like 3 or 4. So I mean, I don't outwardly dislike it, but I just never really easily felt very strongly about it. I like Subspace Emissary though, but that's probably because of the cutscenes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you started with well, I guess you started with Air Ride, but something like Superstar Ultra is because my timeline of events is, of course, getting Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and then seeing any character that wasn't Mario or Pokemon, I didn't know who they were. So it was like Samus from Smash Bros. Or Captain Falcon or Link from Smash Bros. Like I had at basic understanding of them. And I had the same moment with Meta Knight in Brawl, in the Subspace Emissary, that the people who are slightly older had with like Shadow the Hedgehog from Sonic Adventure 2, where they see him and something activates in their brain where they're like, I have the Sonic autism. This is going to be the most important thing in my life. This is the coolest character ever. And that's how I felt about Meta Knight. Like, still to this day, I'm like, that's peak character design. It doesn't get better than that. And then because of that... No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, as a kid, I was kind of jealous of Meta Knight for having the Halberd, this gigantic fucking cool ass ship with his face on it, and Sonic, a Solid Snake, and Lucario like sneaking through it, and Sheik too just was so badass to me. Like that captured my imagination.
There is,
I fucking love the Subspace Emissary.
I do too. I feel like I'm constantly fighting about fighting back against this idea that like I vehemently hate all cutscenes by default, when the point I was trying to make in that Portal video was rather just like, I don't think storytelling should get in the way of the gameplay. I'm fine with it being a reward. I don't think the storytelling necessarily needs to be a part of the gameplay. So something like the Subspace Emissary, where they have those little interactions, I think Smash Bros is as much a part of those little interactions. And I think like coming up and starting with Brawl is that I view like the characters that have gone from Melee to Brawl, basically the Brawl roster, I view like those are the Smash Bros characters, and every game I'm like, oh, I want to see them interact. So I would like to see a little bit of a peeling back for the next game, and maybe like, I don't think we need a dedicated huge story mode, but something like that, little moments. I don't even need voice acting for the characters. But no, I saw that, and either that combined or watching some of my friends, like older siblings at the 6 houses I batted around at, play Superstar Ultra on the DS, because everything's spread through hearsay and word of mouth, that I thought I needed that game. And I love Superstar Ultra. I never like fully beat it as a kid. My grasp or understanding of Kirby, people always use this as a joke comparison. It's like, oh, it's like Dark Souls, when they're talking about the lore of Kirby. And that just means there's a lot of it hidden within the menus that isn't like built into the story itself. You have to go find it. But I think the comparison to Dark Souls works multifaceted, because to me, Kirby is most memorable in its boss fights. Like the individual side-scrolling levels, there's only a handful I remember. But with every Kirby game I've played, especially Forgotten Land, that really the levels were sort of bare bones and lackluster, that the best parts and the parts I remember are those boss fights. And there's so many characters because of that in Kirby that stand out. And you mentioned Triple Deluxe. That was one of the later, I think, was that one of the 3DS Kirby games? Am I getting that right?
Triple Deluxe was 3DS, yeah.
Yeah, that they introduced this wider Kirby pantheon. And Star Allies for the Switch, although it is just another 2D side-scroller Kirby game, or at least at the time it felt kind of generic, has had a slow rollout of free updates where they just add all of the Kirby characters to it. The argument or potential hypothesis when it comes to a new Kirby Air Riders, and it's interesting that you grew up with Air Ride, because I've tried to play it multiple times in like my teenagers and adult ages.
I didn't grow up with it. I played it like a couple times over like 2 or 3 days.
But you got into it early, whereas like I tried it. So wait, did you like understand it? Because I feel like I don't understand it.
But I remember coming back to it, or I remember hearing about it again, maybe at the age of maybe like 10 to 13, and being like, holy shit, that game, I remember playing that. That was like a that was a weird, that wasn't a weird fever dream I had. You know what I mean? Whether you have like memories of being that age and you're not sure whether it actually happened or not.
Yeah, with video games specifically, because you're just picturing
Yeah.
what they could be in your head. Especially when like there's really archaic cutscenes that you remember being way more epic because you kind of filled in the blanks.
Yeah.
I think Brawl has a lot of that as well. But that's why I hope to see. I'm glad there's a 40-minute direct, and I hope they go over. Because when Ultimate was coming out, the final Smash Ultimate direct was also 40 minutes, and it was like, oh, the options menu, the music tab. And I was like, oh my God, I don't care. That for
I
Kirby.
think that's, or there's a good chance that we're going to be getting shit like that.
Well,
I
I don't
think.
mind that because when it's like Kirby Air Ride, I don't understand at all. I have tried to play multiple times and I feel like I'm always doing it wrong. So if he like makes like a Kirby Air Ride for babies video or for dummies, like I'm
Oh
fully
yeah.
on board with that because the spin-offs are never really the ones I got. I played Epic Yarn a lot as a kid. I played Canvas, or is it Rainbow Curse, the Wii U one? I had that. I feel like a lot of the ones I played were spin-offs, but I played some.
Wasn't the Wii one Return to Dreamland?
Yes. I didn't play that one. I had Epic Yarn instead. So from my perspective, I played like Smash Bros. And then Superstar Ultra, which I stole the name from. And then I played Epic Yarn. And those were the only three Kirby. I was like, oh, this is what Kirby is. And it was a different experience every time.
Yeah.
But for this, the argument comes in. Masahiro Sakurai, of course, developed the original Kirby Air Ride because he created Kirby. However, in the timeline and the grand scheme of Kirby existing as an IP, as a game series, he worked on a small percent of it. He did the 3 in the Dreamland trilogy, Kirby's Adventure for the NES, most of the spin-offs for the Game Boy, Kirby Superstar, and then the last non-remake or non-spin-off one he worked on was Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, I believe. Or Kirby, one of the ones for the Game Boy Advance. The last Kirby game he worked on was in like 2005. And since then,
Wow.
there have been a lot of Kirby characters that have graduated to playable or have come back or been introduced. And the plan for next week's episode was that because you haven't played a whole lot of them, and I'm more of a Kirby watcher than a player, I guess, at this point, that I wanted to go over the complicated Kirby lore that might come up in the Forgotten Land, because after next week's episode is when Forgotten Land Switch 2 edition with the additional playable DLC comes out, and there might be a long-awaited, lore character that might show up again. Galactonite, even though Morpho Knight already showed up in Forgotten Land. There'll be spoilers there. But now it seems like next week is going to be a very Kirby-centric episode, because not only will we be going over the Kirby Air Riders direct, but also getting ready for the Forgotten Land. But what I'm saying there is that there are a lot of Kirby characters, and since Sakurai has left developing Kirby games to HAL, he no longer works for HAL, they have themselves upgraded the likes of Bandana Waddle Dee to basically Kirby's Luigi. And I'm sure you've heard about it in the context of Smash Bros. That everyone's like, oh, Sakurai hates Bandana Waddle Dee, like there's no way he'll put him in. So the concern is that whenever Sakurai develops a Kirby game, all the playable characters are Pink Kirby and Yellow Kirby and Green Kirby and Blue Kirby. While in a game like Star Allies that he didn't work on, we've seen so many spin-off and secondary characters. Kirby has a very large rogues gallery. So half of the people are worried that this new Kirby Air Rider game, the first one developed by Sakurai since, I guess, the last Kirby Air Rider game, is not going to feature the other Kirby characters and will instead solely feature Kirby recolors, maybe Meta Knight, and maybe King Dedede.
That's I think that's a pretty reasonable concern to have, because if Sakurai is anything like, say, Miyamoto, in his kind of, I don't want to say twisted or narrow view,
he's very protective.
He's with his idea of what Kirby should be isn't necessarily in line with, I think, a lot of the people who've kind of maintained the franchise over the years. That I think if he's really figureheading a Kirby game for the first time in decades, I'm pretty sure. What was it? Amazing Mirror? That was on the DS or the game GBA, right? The GBA?
Yeah, I think Air Ride may have come out after that. I'm not super sure. It was the GameCube and GBA era, is what we'll say.
If that was so, they were within like a year or two of each other. So, so there's a lot of Kirby that's taken place since then, and my guess is that he's not going to be super representative of it, just based on, I don't know, because honestly, I think a big part of the reason I'm kind of confident about that is that if I was Sakurai, I'd probably have the same affectation. Straight up.
Yeah, I didn't invent these characters. I don't know what a Magalore is. I don't want anything to do with this.
It's like, why does Kirby have this twist villain? What the fuck?
But there's a lot of characters that people feel very, and I'm not even arguing on either. Well, I mean, I like Marks, right? But that was a character that Sakurai did work with, and obviously Marks is a boss character in Smash Bros. Ultimate. I guess it really just boils down to what we think this game is going to be. Do you think it's going to stick to the 4-player model?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'd say probably, because they need split screen, and anything more than that just seems not practical.
Because my take is that this is coming out the same year as Mario Kart World. And I think that they would probably go... I know that it's not... Kirby Air Ride is not just a racing game, but it is a kart-based game, technically, or a driving-based game, that you would want to differentiate them using modern convention. And Mario Kart goes in the direction of open world. That's a modern game convention. Where my theory for Kirby Air Riders is that it might be something more akin to a battle royale game. Because even though he didn't work on the game, there was an additional mode or additional upgraded mode when Return to Dreamland. Is it Return to Dreamland, the 4-player Wii one? I believe so.
Yeah.
Had a deluxe version on the Switch. They added that reflex-based game where you have to hit the button before anyone else, but they added like an 100-player mode where you could play with 99 other Kirbys online. So my hope for the game is that you have a large selection of Kirby characters and alt colors and stuff like that. And I don't want it to have a primary online focus. I would like to have it be a campaign would be nice. But I think the direction it will go is something more akin to a battle royale, since Kirby Air Ride, to my understanding, is more about eliminating your opponent more than beating them in a structured race.
I think so.
So that's why I would want more playable characters than just different colors of Kirby. However, there were a lot of accounts that were launched because of this. This is the official Kirby Air Rider JP account. There's a lot of stuff where Grok auto-translates stuff. I really hate it. But yeah, the direct is tomorrow. But this was pointed out by HBox, I think, that the profile picture here is not art we've seen anywhere towards the game. The game, more often than not, has this same poster. Also, the Direct is streaming live on the Nintendo Today app at the same time.
Oh, finally.
It is on YouTube. So they're very clearly like trying to make this a destination for Nintendo information. But it just won't... So much of the stratosphere of watching Nintendo Directs is people reacting to it live, and you can't really stream that on your phone. Anyway, this profile picture image sort of looks like a trophy on a desk or on like a table. So there might be like, I mean, if it's taking a lot after Smash Bros. I don't know if you've seen the Kirby Air Ride menu where it looks just like Brawl, but it could be that...
I'm tapped in enough to know that, yeah.
Yeah, of course. That there could be
I've
dedicated...
watched enough Smash Bros. Directs. I mean, yeah.
Right. It'd be nice to hear from him again, just to see what he's up to. But
Oh, yeah.
Now that I've said my pitch, I'm kind of talking myself out of it. I don't know if I want it to be like an online-only game. I guess that would incentivize me to play it more regularly, have like seasons or whatever. I don't want to have friends to play it. I mean, we've seen how that's gone when it comes to playing the Mario Party game. But that's what I expect. I would hope that they do feature... that Sakurai is going to break down all these stereotypes and he's going to show all those tertiary Kirby characters. But... maybe that's what the Switch 2 release of the Forgotten Land is supposed to fight back against, is that Air Riders is just going to be every color of Kirby you can imagine and nothing else.
I'd say it's not completely unlikely that that'll be the case, all things considered. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised straight up if there's no Meta Knight or DDD even, if it's just like little colored Kirbys straight up. I don't know. I mean...
yeah. I do hope it shakes something up from Kirby Air Ride. Because, again, maybe I just didn't understand it. But
I think it will, just because 20 years later... I guess that's a reason to think that they might have playable characters. I don't know. I mean, it's just... I don't know, Kirby Air Ride is such a weird game in a lot of ways. I don't know. It's very different from, at least to my understanding. To be fair, I'm not a big fan. It just doesn't fit in with many other Kirby games, I guess. I don't know. It's just... the way you play it, especially, it just, I don't know. That might just be because I watched it when I played it when I was just a young kid. Now I have like a weird kind of, I don't want to say like complex with it. And that might be part of it. But yeah, no, it doesn't feel like anything else to me for some reason.
I like to think that this is sort of like not a special edition, but coming back 20 years later and being like, okay, now I have the budget and time. I've done so much for Nintendo. Now I'm allowed to do my weird passion project that I can make the Kirby Air Ride I always wanted to make. That would be my take on it. So I really hope that it has something, because it's seeming more and more. We talked about this ever elusive Nintendo holiday game. It's possible that Kirby Air Riders is that. Or maybe they just believe
you might be right.
That. Because I'm not even convinced
the
Prime is even coming out this year anymore.
I guess the reason I was always hesitant to believe the Kirby Air Riders holiday game theory was just because it took them so long to say anything about it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we didn't even get real gameplay during the direct, I don't know, it was just kind of hard to I don't know, be confident in the game coming out this year, even if they said it would.
Was this
same with Metroid, but at least we've seen footage of Metroid.
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah.
Okay, so they announced this after Bonanza, right, or before Bonanza?
After. I'm like 99.9% sure.
So Bonanza's the big like direct stopper game. So yeah, we're gonna see more, and we'll talk about. Oh, we saw this, but we'll talk about it next time. I don't really have a direct line of like, oh, this is the most important Legend ZA information. I've just been bookmarking stuff the entire weekend because there is no one like absolute source. I have just seen a lot of different people, some returning people, just pointing their camera at the demo as people play it. I think it's only like the beginning of the game. It seems like the game starts with you meeting up with the Zygarde form. We've seen a lot of Central leaks. Unfortunately, we have a lot of this. We'll have held items. Each item you use will have cooldowns, so you can't just spam potions, for example. I want to find the video where it shows the Pokemon taking poison damage, because that's really interesting. I think I
heard about that.
Yeah, where they, in the overworld, still take poison damage. Because that was a mechanic that was removed in later Pokemon games, where, obviously in the older ones, when you would walk around, every couple steps you would take, they would take a little bit of damage. But this game is leaning into the real-time adventure aspect of it, and there's a lot of that. I saw this clip shared around too, where you accidentally stumble across this battle, and this person's got like a vastly over-leveled Pidgeotto, or is that a Pidgeot? That there's a lot to that. We've seen a lot of information. Shout out Cerebi.net, by the way. Were you ever a Cerebi kid? I used to come here all the time.
I was a huge Cerebi kid, dude.
Because I know some people are Bulbapedia kids, and I don't think so. I don't fuck with it.
I didn't get into the Bulbapedia craze for a while, but once I did, I kind of like traded out Cerebi for Bulbapedia, I'll be honest with you.
For me, Bulbapedia was often like, that was more of a source for like anime information.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Nowadays, I mean, there's probably a part of me that would get more out of reading Cerebi, because I think Bulbapedia, like whenever I want to see a Pokemon stats, like I have to do more digging on Bulbapedia than Cerebi, but I don't know. Old habits die hard, I guess. Yeah. One thing I loved about Cerebi is they had that one page, I think it's called Poke Earth, where they have like the entire Pokemon world mapped out. I think it's not even like it's not even canon, but it's just kind of cool.
Well, Poke Earth is what you use to look at the maps of individual games, where you're like, okay, where am I? What is the route to the left of me? What Pokemon are there? This is another, not a new mechanic, but a new game mode that they showed off at Pokémon Worlds that has this 4-player battle, but you're not battling each other. I think you're given a 3-minute interval, and whoever can defeat the most Pokemon, or are they battling each other? Yeah, I think it's all real-time battles. They're fighting each other. So this is a 4-player Pokemon battle. The more, I said before, like, oh, I don't think there's anything they could show me about this game to get me excited for it, but the more actual gameplay footage I see, because I feel like that's what we've been missing. Like, every trailer, every direct, they've been showing off NPC characters and all of your customizable clothes and the Pokemon that have megas and some that don't. But this is what I wanted to see. I want to know how the game plays. And I think it is one of those scenarios where once it's in my hand, I'll have a better understanding. I mean, it comes out in a couple months, and 2 months from now. This makes me way more excited about it. This real-time battle thing has sort of a learning curve to it, but what were you going to say?
It's funny you bring that up, because I've been hearing a lot of complaints this past weekend about the fact that they've still only showed off one Mega Evolution. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I feel like I'm saying this off the assumption that the leaked list of Mega Evolutions is real. It could very well
our designs are also real from the last episode.
But I'm going to assume it is, because essentially, there was a leak that said that Mega Dragonite was going to be in the game, and it was going to have, its wings on its head.
Yes.
I mean, I guess theoretically someone could guess that, but I'm going to assume that it probably was just, that was just the actual list of Mega Evolutions. So there are other Mega Evolutions in this game, or if those leaks are true, there are. But they still haven't shown any of them other than Dragonite, and it seems really weird. You know what I mean?
That they haven't shown a lot of them off. I think I prefer that, though.
Well, that's the thing. There's been a lot of arguing about it, and now I've seen a couple people say that, back during the Sun and Moon era, they'd be showing off tons of new Pokemon and new Alolan forms all the time. And yeah, that's true, but I didn't like that either.
Dude, in X and Y, they showed off most of them because, one, they were showing off everything, and two, there already weren't a lot of Pokemon in Kalos, so I feel like we knew about most of them.
Yeah, there were only maybe I think the only Pokemon that I found out about for the first time while playing X and Y were Hawlucha and the Barnacle Pokemon. Straight up. Binacle, I think. Maybe Bergmite, but I think I actually saw Bergmite in a leak before the game came out. The leaks didn't help. But just in general,
it's not really on them.
Yeah, I know. But it just occurred to me. But I was so excited to see Pokemon for the first time that I didn't get nearly as much of that as I was hoping. But to be fair, I think I definitely like them not showing off everything immediately. But also, I want to see a little more. A little more.
What do you want to see? More Pokemon or more gameplay? You want to see more Egg Evolutions?
Yeah, I mean the gameplay. I guess honestly, I don't pay that much attention to new Pokemon news because a lot of the time, if it's not new Pokemon, it's them just telling me the story that I don't really care about, or I don't care about until I play it myself.
Yeah, you'll experience it within the game. Well, that's why I've been so shocked by this Pokemon Worlds information. I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to show. But because this isn't like an announcement or a direct or a trailer, we are just literally seeing people play the game. Really, like 90% of the information we're going to learn is gameplay information, and that makes me way more excited than knowing if I can put a hat on my character.
Well, actually, it's funny you bring this up because they're just reminding me of I think this is also something shown off at the Worlds event, is that in Pokemon Champions, you're gonna have an item, you're gonna have an in-game item that gives the user the ability to do both Z moves, or not both, Z moves, Mega Evolution, and Dynamax. And it's like,
and
why?
Terastallization,
why,
I think, right?
Why? Oh yeah, Terastallization too. Yeah, I think maybe there's one of those that isn't there.
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, dude, what the fuck is that shit, dude? It's like, why do they even need to make that? Is this a game with a story? You know what I mean?
That's for Pokemon Champions.
I know, but I'm just like thinking to myself, is that a thing they need to specify? Are they trying to come up with a lore explanation for this? I don't know. It's just so funny to me.
Right.
It's just, here's the ring that can do everything for some reason.
I guess you're right. Like, if they all have different held items, there's really no need for an explanation as to why you can do so many within a battle. Like, the Pokemon themselves can already do it.
Well, I mean, I think part of the lore in Pokemon is that the trainer needs to have like a Mega Ring or a certain something that to activate Mega Evolution. There's a lore explanation on what those are actually come from. I think it's like built off the like ultimate weapon from Gen 6, but I could be wrong. I forget exactly what the fucking lore shit is. And then there's lore shit for Terastallization too. I think it has something to do with Terapagos and the magic crystals or whatever.
Yeah, I guess
forget.
You do. I don't remember. I think Gigantamax. Yeah, maybe they do all individually have a new trinket, like a new ring. I think
they do. I think they usually have trinkets.
I kind of wish it looked bulkier. Like it's very sleek and very like Apple, like, oh, it's casual, it's sleek. I wish it looked more like a I mean, this is just nostalgia. I wish it looked like a mid-2000s gadget. Like, I wish it took up most of your arm. But I've heard, I mean, they announced also that Mega Dragonite is going to be in Pokemon Champions. I already assumed that was going to happen because that game's coming out after. So people are treating it like a big announcement. And technically it is, but I'm like, yeah, I would have assumed that. I don't think we got any more information about Champions other than Mega Dragonite and this.
It's fucking Omni Ring.
Oh, they did announce that there is going to be a paid version on the Switch and Switch 2 that's like a starter pack or whatever, which will probably just get you strong Pokemon to use. I mean, the game itself seems pretty pay to win anyway.
Yeah, most likely.
I guess I'm glad it's free so people have a forum to fight. But if it was like a little bit more, like maybe like a 10 or a 20 or whatever, they could have like a stadium-esque campaign, because that's what I would want to use it for, to transfer my Pokemon into the game so I could fight like pre-made NPC trainers. I don't even need to explore a world. Just like give me a line of trainers to fight. I think we've had this discussion before. The game doesn't appeal to me that much because I don't really care about competitive Pokemon, or rather, don't care about playing competitive Pokemon. Doesn't do much for me. But you're right. It does exist now.
Did I fuck with Wolfie videos though? I mean, I like a lot of comp Pokemon videos. They're pretty fun to watch. And
yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool mechanics in the game.
It's the same thing with Melee. Like I love watching it and watch people talk about it, but I don't want to do it. Like I don't want to hop online and do it myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't get enough I wouldn't get enough out of like playing Melee competitively. I'm definitely not a fighting game guy.
And for me, like playing champions, like maybe against friends, but for right now, the main thing that's sticking to me is Legends ZA. I mean, this is the most. Yeah, here we go. Pokemon Champion. This is announcing Mega Dragonite and Champions. Oh, they played Pokemon Champions. Or maybe they just showed it off. Whatever. But they said that in ZA you still don't have held items, right? Or no, you don't have... You don't have natures? It was something that's missing that really nerfs.
You don't have
some
abilities.
Megas.
I know that.
Abilities.
I know that.
Maybe that's what it is.
Which
everyone was posting about Megas Kangaskhan and
then
Mawile.
yeah, definitely abilities, because those are two Pokemon that are completely broken because of their abilities. I mean, I think there's a non-zero chance that some Pokemon that really are their abilities, like Mega Mawile, like Mega Kangaskhan. I think especially Mega Kangaskhan, I think they'll just probably hard code Mega Kangaskhan to have some bullshit in the game. And by bullshit, I mean like mechanic Mega Kangaskhan has, regardless of whether it works with it, like whether it's in an ability. Because they did that with Regigigas in the last Legends game. Because even though there were no abilities, Regigigas still have speed and attack in battles.
Well, I feel like people are looking at this from a traditional Pokemon standpoint. When looking at the gameplay, like I don't know if the lack of abilities will even impact the game. Because if you're just if you're running around and hitting a button so your Pokemon doesn't move, I'm not saying that to like, you know, downplay it. Like I think that looks fun, like the gameplay loop. This has made me way more excited than anything else I've seen about this game. Also, I don't know if you just saw that, but when he's walking through here, there's big rocks that you can target that are blocking the path. I do love some HM, some destructible environments blocking a path.
Yeah,
but yeah, like this gameplay,
the
like the moving around boss fights, it seems like the games are going to be more like this. So, like Kangaskhan and Mawile not having their abilities, I don't think really matters. If it seems like Mega is more of a game mechanic. I mean, it's always been a game mechanic, but more of a like your Pokemon's strong and can do a boss fight now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they try and spice up Megas in some way where they give those kinds of Megas a certain ability, but I'm not sure. You know, it's funny that you bring up the rocks now that I think about it, because my guess is what they're gonna do is they're gonna have, you know, in a similar way to Legends Arceus, that, you know, throughout the game you basically just get the HMs, like some Pokemon guru teaches you how to teach your Pokemon to break stuff.
Well, they showed in the first trailer
HM, you know what I mean? It's gonna be
sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's another HM, not HM mechanic. You know what I mean? Oh, never mind that. Pokemon just use Rock Smash. So yeah, they're gonna do. I think there might just be straight up HMs.
I mean, you could still use Surf and Fly. They just weren't HM moves anymore in the previous one. But we saw in that first trailer.
Lucario, why are you teaching your Lucario Rock Smash? You know what I mean?
It's the demo. I guess they made a pre-made build. But
yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's because Rock Smash is actually like a necessity, which would be kind of annoying.
Well,
I don't know.
You raise a good point about like the ride Pokemon or whatever they called them, the temple Pokemon in Legends Arceus. But we saw in that first trailer that Art Trainer like uses the Rotom phone to hover down. So I was really worried that like all of the abilities that count as traversal are going to be just phone apps, especially because I can't imagine this game requires a lot of climbing like Legends Arceus or even Scarlet and Violet did. It seems like a pretty stagnant city. Like, oh god, I hope so. Or Whirlpool.
Well, it's funny. It's so funny that defog became like the worst move ever, or was the worst move ever, and then it became so essential that it kind of dominated the metagame that they had to like completely remove it or just really limit it to what people could actually get
annoying. I mean,
I remember like in Gen 4, people were complaining about this stupid move you're forced to have for a couple areas in the game. So then they buffed it in Gen 6, I think. and then it got like so overpowering for like the Hazards game that they just
Yeah.
kind of really limited it.
I see what you mean about like but most of the Pokemon you got that you could ride in Legends Arceus were about traversal, and this
Yeah,
game seems very flat. And I'm not saying that to
yeah,
like but like I can't imagine you're gonna like, oh, you get to fly around or you get to
you're not
scale the
climbing shit.
buildings, like you're just
Yeah,
walking down a cityscape. I think the rocks probably act as like oh, you could unlock this place later. Lumio City has a power outage in only this alleyway, so you can't go here.
yeah. I forget. Did they say this game was gonna have like an open world story in the way Scarlet and Violet did?
I don't know. It seems like, I mean, from the footage we were just looking at, or the bits that people were posting about, that there was the point where you could walk into this area. All right, enough of that. Walk into this area and accidentally find a trainer that's way too strong, and that happened with Pokemon in Legends Arceus. That the road.
I love the fuck. I love the premise of some guy being able to assault you with his Pokemon, and that's
Yeah.
like okay. You know what I mean? It's like you were caught off guard. This guy's attacking your Pokemon
He's
with
gonna
his
get your money.
Pidgeotto, and
I
you're
wonder
just
if
gonna have
they're
to
gonna.
deal with it.
I wonder if they're gonna kill you like they did in Legends Arceus, where they actually try and just straight up attack you. But I
That's the
think
thing about this game I feel like we're not going to get, which is kind of sad because I really like the kind of, great outdoors feel of Legends Arceus. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean that's what we
I
see
don't
in
know.
these battles with the Mega Absol, is that you are physically rolling and dashing to get away from the attacks. But I don't know how, because I don't think the Rogue Mega means it belongs to a trainer. I think maybe the Rogue Megas are just trying to kill you. But it's not
I
every
think the
Pokemon.
rogues, well, I'm pretty sure the lore is that without a trainer to like help a Pokemon navigate the Mega Evolution, they just can't control themselves or they go crazy or whatever. I
Hmm.
mean, my guess is that what at least I would predict, unless they've said something in the directs already, and I'm just misinformed, that a big element to this story in the game is going to be hunting down, or not literally hunting down, but taming the rogue megas in a similar way you had to tame the trial Pokemon. I forget what they were called in Legends Arceus, because they were like 5 Pokemon. The Hisuian not Leavanny, Lilligant, like
Hmm.
all those Pokemon that you had to kind of tame in Legends Arceus. I assume it's gonna be a similar thing with Rogue Megas. So I assume maybe like 5 or 6 of them,
I
at
think
least for the main story.
what we were
I don't
said
know.
in the likes of trailers was that like you're battling other trainers to get your rank up, and you start at rank Z. I imagine you have to get to rank A, which is why it's called that. But also at Pokemon Worlds, they gave out, I don't know if it was a scavenger hunt, but they gave out 250 Zygarde cells to like different patrons of Pokemon Worlds. And obviously
Oh
in the
wow.
opening of the game, you see that Zygarde. So I imagine it has something to do with that. Once we get Kirby in the Forgotten Land, it depends on how much you care about Daemon X Machina too. But Pokemon Legends ZA is gonna be the next one. I want to be excited about the game. I think I was disappointed
I'll
initially
definitely
because
get
I
it. I'll definitely
really
get it.
liked Legends ZA, or sorry, I really liked Legends Arceus, and I liked the exploration aspects and the new forms. And I know that this game isn't gonna have either of those things. But if they got fun little Dark Souls-esque battles, I'll play it. It could be a
Yeah,
sleeper hit. I don't know, but it also is, very clearly, hopefully, the last game that was built for the original Switch.
I
That
think
whatever we
the only
get next year for the anniversary and for Gen 10 is going to be like the first Switch to Nintendo or Pokemon game.
I think the big disappointment about this game for me was just the fact that wow, Lucario really is 311.
God, yeah.
The
Dumb
big
fuck
disappointment was
loser.
just that it just takes place after X and Y. I really
Hmm.
thought Legends was going to be more as a series, if they were going to do a series, especially when they initially showed it off back in 2024. The impression I got was that Legends was going to explore the Pokemon world from less traditional settings. So not the same kind of, city suburbs kind of way that we usually explore Pokemon games. I imagine, something more like a lot more. I forget which, not Edo Japan, not Meiji Japan, or is it Edo Japan? I forget. Whatever, like the turn of the 19th century Japan that Pokemon Legends Arceus took place. I thought that was really cool. I was
I
hoping
did
we were gonna
really
get
want
more.
ancient Johto, so this
Yeah.
this modern Kalos is a little
Oh yeah, a
lackluster.
lot of people were guessing that. I mean, what I was kind of hoping when this game first showed off was, a similar kind of, 1800s, 1900s France kind of thing. You know, like old school Lumios, but you know, I don't know. There's just something about the way Pokemon settings are usually done where it's like vaguely based off of a culture, but they always announce it the same way that, oh yeah, this is a cool place where people live in harmony with Pokemon. It's like, wow, what's this? The 10th one? You know what I mean? It's just
buildings and taller wild trainer battle zones. So maybe it's like gyms where you just go in the area and you have to battle everyone there. It seems like Rogaps was the first one you faced.
Oh, Zygarde literally has like a green asshole.
All right, man. I like this little animation where the
Zygarde straight up has frankly one of the most awkward lores of any Pokemon like ever, any legendary Pokemon.
That's the other
he's
thing.
Introduced in Gen 6 with like no information about him, and then Gen 7 rolls around, they add 2 forms, and there's not much to him, like just some random characters just give you some shit. I think they were from another game.
Maybe that's the second layer of disappointment. That my first layer was like, I want an ancient Johto, or just like, you know, ancient Kalos would be fine too. Then as soon as they announced ZA, I'm like, okay, it's a Legends game, but we're gonna answer a lot of questions that were left over from X and Y. And then I learned that the entire game takes place in Lumio City, and then I was disappointed a second time that ever since it was announced, it's been a slowly like pelting me to just get it shrink down. That Pokemon Worlds has done a little bit to get it back in my graces, but I can't really know until I play it.
Yeah, and maybe this is just the fact that I don't watch the anime anymore, that the fact that Zygarde seems so weirdly handled is kind of hitting me. Because maybe in like the TV show, there's more to Zygarde than meets the eye.
Yeah, the second seasons or third seasons of the individual generations were always changed to match whatever the new game was. Like whenever they added a third version, the second season or third season of Diamond and Pearl was Battle Revolution. It was the Battle Frontier for Hoenn because that was the big thing in Emerald, and then they added a lot of Johto Pokemon in the later seasons of Diamond and Pearl because like, oh, there's a Johto remake. There was a second season of X and Y called XYZ that focused heavily on the Hoenn Megas and also Zygarde. So the belief obviously is that there was going to be a third version or a sequel version to X and Y that was planned out in the anime that we just never got when it came to games. Oh, those are the rocks I was talking about.
Yeah, I now have the Zygarde Wikipedia open, and I'm reminded of, man, I kind of wish I could just download all the entire anime into my brain, like every single episode, every single movie, without having to actually watch it. There's just too much. There's just too much. I can't do these 1,400 episode animes. It's just not in the cards, you know?
Well, Pokemon is something like Doctor Who, where you could really just jump in depending on what generation you want to watch.
Because they handhold you through everything. In fact, they handhold you so much it pissed me off when I was a kid. Like, I was watching Diamond and Pearl, and the characters are saying stuff, and I'm like 6, and I'm like, I know. Come on.
I get it. I know what a Pikachu is.
It's like I remember I think in Gen 5, it was probably Gen 5 or maybe early Gen 6, there's a scene where Ash sees a Weasel in a river and he scans it with his Pokedex, and it's like, Weasel, the aquatic weasel Pokemon. I forget what the thing is, the little like tagline, weasel. And it might just literally be the Weasel Pokemon. And then people were mad at it because Ash had a Weasel in Diamond and Pearl. Like, it was Don's Weasel, but Weasel liked battling more than the contests.
He traded his Apom. I remember.
He traded his Apom, yeah. So I remember that shit, and now like Ash forgot he had a Weasel. And I guess the answer of, oh, they're trying to keep fans who didn't watch the fucking watch the episode where that happened like 4 years ago. They're trying to keep people in touch, just in case, you know. Yeah. Just like how there were like 600 episodes of the show before you started watching, idiot.
Not me. I was watching Diamond and Pearl, and then I got the original season on DVD, but only like the first like 20 episodes, maybe like 13 episodes. And then I started watching the advanced series on Google Video, because before, I don't know if it was before Google bought YouTube, because they bought it pretty early, but I think Google had like a rival video platform.
Google Video.
Yeah, where the copyright wasn't as litigious, so people would just upload full episodes of anime and stuff. And that's why I watched Pokemon Advance. It was just on Google Video. I'm sure, I mean, Google Video isn't even
I
around
want to
anymore, so it
be a
doesn't matter, but
hero.
that was
Give
its
me
own thing.
just one chance.
Before I jump into that last segment, I don't know if you're familiar with Ninjala.
Deep inside. Vaguely. I think I saw a trailer for this once.
It was like, it's one of those battle royale games that was released in like the pandemic. There were a handful of these. There was, I forget what it's called. There was one that was about wrestling that I played with Aiden on that channel. That video still exists. Your friends, and also a friend of me technically. Of playing that one wrestling based battle royale game like this. And then there was one about like dodgeball. There were a lot that kind of all blend together. I remember seeing this and being like, oh, it's free to play. Maybe I should play it. The movement looks fun. And then I just never played it. It has since been shut down. Like, the servers are shutting down, which happened with that one wrestling game as well that for whatever reason I can't remember. It was like Rumbleverse? I think it was Rumbleverse. And I liked it was, you know, a melee-based wrestling battle royale game, and then it lasted like a year, and then Multiverses came out, and that was out for a year. And these online dedicated games, when they stop getting support, they just shut them down. They don't exist anymore. The thing about Ninjala is like, this is what people call a Discord game that really only exists amongst a small fan base of people that play it like amongst that community. But the thing about Ninjala is it has so much, I didn't know this until recently, so much extended media that the game is being shut down because it isn't making enough and doesn't have enough players. Meanwhile, the Ninjala anime is currently at episode 179.
There are worlds that you and I don't know.
I didn't know there was a Ninjala anime. I don't know.
Why do they look like that? They look like iShow Speed.
Kind of look like that in the game, sort of. But yeah, I mean, the anime is going to keep being supportive. There's like a bunch of other stuff. Knockout City was the other one, Rip. Yeah. That was the dodgeball one. I remember playing both of those. Ninjala is the only one I didn't play. I mean, only. Of those main three that I just listed. But it's funny that they were still working on this game for a little bit, that it seems like its extended media has outlived the rest of it. I'm sure there are some video games like that where like they had a show that lasted longer than the... Well, that's Sonic Boom, right? Is that the game was made to tie in with the show, and then the game got really
That
poor
really
reviews.
is crazy. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to... I've kind of lost track of what's going on with Sonic, just because it just seems like the same story over and over again.
The
like
people
the new
are turning
Sonic
on
game
Sonic Crossworlds.
literally sucks, or people hate it, and it's like, whoa. The new 3D Sonic game was low budget and no one likes it.
What are the odds?
Whoa. Yeah, you know what I mean? I think Sonic Boom was kind of especially bad though, at least from what I heard secondhand.
Right.
Of course, I only hear stuff secondhand.
All the worst Sonic games at least have good music, and Sonic Boom didn't have any good music. So for that metric, I think it's the worst one. And for that and that alone. But yeah, just getting you checked in on all the Ninjala information that I thought you might want to know. We're going to start our watch through of all 180 episodes. Seems like they come out every week. Chat says it's kind of like Fortnite Save the World and Battle Royale, but the opposite. This game's kind of like Fortnite if you think about it. Any Battle Royale game.
This is like Fortnite, but there's no shooting and there's no Battle Royale.
Yeah, does Fortnite have an anime? I don't think so.
Is there still a Battle Buzz? I don't know what's going on with Fortnite.
Yeah, they got Power Rangers in there now. I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
Is there still like Victory Royale, or is it just?
Yeah.
It's just, I have no
back
idea
in my day, you would get a Victory Royale if you defeated all the other squads. You know, Fortnite's still the same.
I played Fortnite not as a kid. I was an adult at this point, but I remember playing, 2018, 2019 a little bit. Just, occasionally my friends were into it. Yeah. So I would kind of pop in and play it. And then I didn't play for like a year. And I logged back in, and at this point, for some reason, the map was the same, except there was a bunch of like portals that like were all blue, and they were, I guess rifts in reality or something. I had no fucking idea what was going on.
You didn't watch the Fortnite game theories? I didn't even play the game.
I guess I didn't. First of all, and then also, it's people don't talk about it anymore. You know what I mean? Fortnite? I feel like in 2019, well, they still talk about it, but the only thing I hear about are the skins. So like back in like 2019, for example, people would make the joke about like, oh yeah, my girlfriend dumped me at Tilted Towers or whatever. Like these parts of the map. I don't even know if those parts of the map exist anymore because I haven't played the game nor heard anyone bring them up in like 6 or 7 years.
Have you heard about Mevins?
Dude, what about Mevins? What's new with Mevins?
Nothing's new.
I love
that's the extent of the recent Fortnite information is that somebody.
I wanted to say I love
so
Mevins,
tilted.
but I feel like there's probably some stupid shit about Mevins that I probably am like somewhat endorsing by saying that I love Mevins.
I always do a bit when anyone I've ever worked with on the internet, I always say like, "Oh, my close personal friend," but
personal friend.
all the people I work with, I feel like I
way.
trust. Maybe I am too trusting of a person, but I don't think they'd ever do anything bad. But there is the chance that somebody could do something, and then somebody gets the clip where it's like, he said he was his good friend. He must have known. I was like, oh, fuck. I hear about... I don't know if I do hear about Fortnite. But no, you got a point. I think they brought...
It's only the skins I hear about.
I totally forgot what I was going to say. I got stun locked by Mevins. Oh, it's a different... I'm talking about Blevins now. Yeah, Fortnite hasn't been the same ever since Ninja went to Mixer. It really fell off after that. Now everyone's going to Kick. Mr. Beast is on Kick. This isn't worth talking about. Anyway, I don't know if you did the same thing I did. You were here on the initial weekend release of the Nintendo Switch 2. I had the opportunity between episodes, I say that like they gifted them to me, I paid for them, to get caught up on some more Nintendo Switch 2 exclusives. And I thought the best way to discuss those guys would be to bring back a fan favorite segment that we haven't seen in a while. The BH Ultra 2025 consumption tier list, now featuring Superman and Eddington and the Fantastic Four and Together and Weapons and the Naked Gun and the Bad Guys 2. Also Rick and Morty is there. I guess. But we really don't need to look at this ranking, although this is all cut up. What we need to look at is this ranking. These are the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusives, quote-unquote, that I have now played. Over the weekend it was released, we played Bravely Default and Fast Fusion, and Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, and Mario Kart World, and Survival Kids 2025, and Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, and have since played Donkey Kong Bonanza. And on Thursday, I played Drag X Drive, which came out on Thursday. The Nintendo-made Drag X Drive. Chillin' by the Fire, which was a game that was announced in that indie showcase we talked about last time, and then released right after. And Dear Me I Was, which is barely a game created by Arc System Works that was released on the same weekend as the Switch 2 as all this other stuff. I just didn't end up playing it. Over here... This is the Wikipedia's list of the Nintendo Switch 2 only games. And a lot of the games here, you'll notice there's some more stuff listed that I don't have. However, some stuff on the list is The Duskbloods, or Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, or Kirby Air Riders. Games that have not released yet. And then we have games like Shinepost and Abakedoro that haven't released in America, so you can't get them on the English eShop. And then we have games like Mousework that don't even have a release date yet. This is the one that I keep saying is the Snipperclips devs, even though it isn't. This is the game I'm most excited for, where you can use the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Con mouse. But there are other things. Where is it? Splatoon Raiders, we also don't know. This game right here, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, is always listed as a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. However, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 is just a Switch 1 game. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, I don't know if it adds any new gameplay loop or anything, or any new like forms of gameplay. I think it just is the Switch 1 game, but playable on the Switch 2. Maybe it looks or runs better, but maybe I'll change my mind. As of right now, I don't count this game. But all the games that have been released, these down here are all of the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusives. So let me ask you. Well, first of all, have you played any Drag X Drive since we last spoke?
No.
Okay. I did play some of it. I also played Chillin' by the Fire. Where's my Drag X Drive footage where I had to get the thigh cam and they could see. Also, where am I? There's the bit where I'm in the Arlo video. I just want to show off where I'm right there, right third place. I almost got him. I got beat like Larat. I show up a couple times in this video because we saw him.
There are like eight other like Nintendo YouTubers who were playing with you.
Yeah, I was playing on stream and then people were like, oh, I saw like Arlo's name and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's Arlo. And then other people were watching his stream and they're like, no, it is Arlo. I just saw you. It's like, oh, let's stream snipe Arlo. I'm just following him around. But I had fun with it for what it was.
My friend was playing TF2 with Star in like 2013. Ooh. Like I just saw his name in the freaking. That was crazy. I was so jealous.
Because what are the odds they use their gamer tag? Because if you're famous for a game, you're gonna get followed around.
He didn't know until a video came out. So he was in a video, and then I saw his name in the kill in like what's it called, the kill feed. I'm an old man.
We're just like too old to play TF2.
No, I just literally just forget these fucking terms at this point in my life. It's the it's the list of, oh, this person killed that person, that part. So yeah, I just saw his name and I was like, whoa. And yeah,
I could see
kind of like this.
The game was definitely more fun than I expected, because obviously early on I was like, yeah, I don't really care. It's cool that it's a new Nintendo game. It feels very gimmicky. It was more fun. And I thought at the time, like, oh man, I could play this for hours. But then, like, since then, I've been feeling like a little bit of muscle pain in like the pec and arm area. This is surprisingly one of the few Nintendo games where it doesn't go like, hey, you've been playing for a while, maybe you should take a break. I had fun with it, but I don't think I would want to play it for elongated periods of time. I also don't know if it would sell someone on the Switch too.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't know. I see the trailers for it, and the idea of rolling around my Joy-Con, that's just a really hard sell. Okay. I mean, I believe you when you say it's more fun than you think than you thought.
There's a lot more cool shit you can do than you expect.
Okay, but yeah, no, I definitely also believe you when you say you haven't been super eager to just kind of load it up,
Well, I played it on Thursday for the rotational Switch 2 stream, because I used to play Switch 1 games every Thursday leading up to the release of the console. And now I just use Thursday as like, oh, this is when I'll just play the Switch 2 and see what I play. But, this coming Thursday, I'm just going to go back to Bonanza. Like, I think it'll be a while before I come back to this game and stream it. It's not super high up on my list of priorities. I also played Chillin' by the Fire, which was, like I said, announced in that Indie Direct. And it is what you're looking at right now. This is the game. This is a campfire simulator game. And the footage we saw in the Indie Direct, I don't know if you can put that up there, of the people gathered around playing online, using their Switch 2 cameras to like look at each other's faces. They're just like a floating face at that point. I think the game has game share. I'm not super sure. I didn't have the opportunity to test it, but this is a campfire simulator. I don't know what about it specifically needs to be a Switch game. So much so that, like, I thought this was a port of an already existing Steam game. It turns out this is entirely different. And then we played Dear Me, I Was, where you make... obviously I have very strong opinions when it comes to visual novels. It was a really touching experience. It was a nice story. It lasted about maybe an hour. Like, I finished this game on stream, and I played 3 games on this day. It was a 3-hour stream. And it was like $10.
What is it? Is it like...
I'm not going to spoil it just in case anyone wants to really experience. Hey, if anyone wants to know the story of Dear Me I Was, you should check out this stream on the BH Ultra Turbo YouTube channel. There is one decision you can make in the game, and all it does is change the ending cutscene. I'm pretty sure. I definitely could have beaten it 3 times, but it's just sort of, it doesn't really need to be a game at that point. So that's where I sit.
What's the can you tell me what someone who's selling the game would say? Is it just kind of, a short story kind of thing?
One woman's life. It starts when she's a kid and she experiences loss, and then goes throughout the game until the game leads her to being an old woman.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of it, I mean, there are some gameplay aspects. You can see here I started putting on the protective braces because my wrists were hurting.
Oh, wow.
You can color stuff
Dear Me, I Was really wears you out.
Yeah, I was speed running. You could click on things to eat them or drink them, but there's no dialogue options. There's no dialogue at all, which for a visual novel I think is bold. I would rather play a visual novel with no dialogue than a visual novel with dialogue. But
it's like the beginning to Up.
And it played music the whole time. It said that it was like a headphone-based experience, but I wasn't using that. So these are the, what did I say? 10 Switch 2 exclusives that currently exist. We are now, I guess it's only been 3 months. Well, it's going to be 3 months. 2.5 months into the Switch 2's existence. These are all the games you can only play on the Switch 2. Granted, Bravely Default and Yakuza are remakes of games that you can play on other consoles. Well, let me ask you where you are in Mario Kart World and where you are in Bonanza. What do you think is currently the best Switch 2 exclusive? Well, in your opinion.
Bonanza. Easy.
Okay, Bonanza. I think I agree that Bonanza is the best.
There are ifs, ands, and buts with Mario Kart World. It's a great game. There are no ifs, ands, and buts with Bonanza other than and this game is awesome. And any of the things I would have said as a but are pretty much like gone now.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I would say is that I'm not I'm pretty tepid on the whole destructible environment thing.
Really?
Like on its own, it doesn't do much for me, but I think most of the levels kind of have some fun gimmick that makes it more interesting. So I don't know. It's like it's just kind of a direction they took that I'm not like super enthusiastic about, but it works out. I don't know how to describe that. Like it's a thing that I think I probably would prefer a more platformer, I guess, but it's not. That's just there's really not much bad I can say about the game other than I guess Pauline's voice actor isn't that good.
For me, that is the game. Like, so much of it is like, oh, I'm gonna go over here and do this thing, and then I get distracted having so much fun destroying, because it is, it's basically the 3D Mario. It's made by the Mario Odyssey team.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of comparisons to Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like whenever you enter one of those rooms and it has like the little embers floating around, it looks like Tears of the Kingdom. And I think to me that digging around in this game is as fun of exploration as like running around in Breath of the Wild. Like, I legitimately think whenever I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, I'll just dig around and look for treasure to try and find maps to things. That is so fun to me. And I still haven't finished the game. I don't even know if I'm I think I'm maybe a little over halfway 100%ing. Last time we checked in, do you know what layer you're on?
I haven't beaten it, but I'm on the final level.
Okay. So I might be a ways behind. We'll get caught up. We'll do an episode where we both have finished it and enough time has passed. Because Mario Kart World, I don't think I've unlocked everything, but I think I've seen everything the game has to offer, more or less. I would like to go back to it and stream it again sometime. But as of right now, I think it's probably the best one under Bonanza. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't played as much as you have, but I mean, of the other games. But I assume that if I played every single game here, I'd probably enjoy Mario Kart like the second most, except maybe Yakuza 0. Maybe I probably, and maybe Bravely Default, but I think in general it's gonna be around that.
I really liked Fast Fusion. I think I would put that on the same layer, like beneath as Drag X Drive.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what I want to be the very bottom, because Dear Me I was barely even a game, but Chillin' by the Fire was technically more expensive, and it is just a campfire simulator. Well, maybe this is one of the friend slop games. Like, maybe if I played it with friends, it's still just making a campfire. Granted, there are stakes, there is difficulty, there is a curve to it. I'm gonna put Dear Me I Was down here, and then I'll put Chillin' by the Fire here. At a certain point, I'm gonna need to double two of these up. So maybe we put Yakuza and Bravely Default on the same layer, since they're both remakes. So would you say that Yakuza and Bravely Default are better than Survival Kids and Switch 2 Welcome Tour? Because you played these 4 games. Or you played these 3 at the very least.
I played a couple. I keep plosiving. I played a good half hour of Bravely Default. I've never played Yakuza 0. I assume that if I were to play the entirety of all 3 of those games, I would enjoy both Yakuza 0 and Bravely Default more than Survival Kids. Yes.
But what about Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour?
Well, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is a bit harder to I think gauge. I think just because it's a different kind of thing that I get different things out of. I'd probably put it above Survival Kids. Yeah, I'd probably put it above Survival Kids, but below the other games.
All right, well let's do it like this then. I think I would agree with this. That's probably fair.
I'm glad I'm glad I contributed on this opinions list for these games that I haven't really played.
Well, I mean, like, it's still worth bringing up, because Welcome Tour...
I think I've made decent educated guesses,
yeah, there were fun mini-games in Welcome Tour, but it wasn't like an overall game experience.
Yeah. If Welcome Tour was free and I played the whole thing, I would have found it, really cute, really sweet, really awesome. I mean, I love that kind of form of Nintendo. I love when Nintendo does stuff like that. I just don't love when they ask for money for it, which is kind of stupid to say, but you know what I mean? It's a hard sell, but it's a really fun form of advertising. Yeah.
This is only the list of Switch 2 exclusives. That doesn't account for Breath of the Wild Switch 2 Edition, Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 Edition. Now we have Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 Edition, and we didn't even really play that. And then upcoming we have Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 Edition. And then I think I have to assume Daemon X Machina 2 is a Switch 2 exclusive. If that game is even still coming out, I saw it in the Direct and then I never heard anything else, so I just have to assume it's the same release date. But I think given the games you played, you would have had the same list. The only veto I had was putting Fast Fusion and Drag X Drive up here, because I think I did like playing them more than Bravely Default. And
I found Fast
Wing.
Fusion mildly fun.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not as good as Mario Kart, but like for what it wasn't even that I didn't find it fun. It's that like after playing for a couple hours, I played all the tracks. Like there was no more game. I already played everything. You could unlock other cars.
Unlock everything, yeah.
Which is fine. Like if it's like a $20 game, it's fine. Dear Me I Was like $10 and it was just that 1 hour experience. Also, developed by Arc System Works, which was confusing to me. But this is the current official ranking. Anyone you ask will say the exact same thing of every Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. Maybe someday I'll bite my tongue and I'll play Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S. But for right now... Wait, what about BitBoy Arcade 2? Oh, this is just a port of a 3DS game, right? Well, whatever. I don't know if I'd count them as Switch 2 exclusives. But overall, we're waiting for the Dust. I think Dustbloods is 2026. Age of Imprisonment, I don't know if we have a release date. It just says late 2025, early 2026. So it was like winter 25. Kirby Air Riders, I have to assume we're going to get a release date on the directs tomorrow. Mousework is still in development. Splatoon Raiders was sort of just dropped on the Nintendo Today app, and we still don't know anything about. It's weird that they have some game. Metroid Prime 4 is no longer on this. Oh, because that's a Switch 1 game, right. I forgot how many Switch 1 games there are that are also releasing for the Switch 2. But I'm caught up on the Switch 1 games, or the Switch 2 games, at least for the first year. I can't promise I'm going to keep up with all of them every year, because they're going to release more and more of them, and a lot of them might just be slop. But where we are right now, that's where we're standing. And when we meet back up next week, I will have Kirby lore to go over for Starcross World, and we will have assumedly both watched the Kirby Air Riders Direct. It won't be a reaction, it'll be more of an analysis. We can go through that Direct. So it'll be a very Kirby-centric episode. And also Gamescom, the final day of Gamescom, is the day, assuming we are back on Monday. It will end that day.
We'll
so
have
maybe
then.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have some gameplay footage. And then obviously the week after that, talk about Cross World. A week after that, maybe Daemon X Machina 2. And then we have like a 5 or 6 week gap before Pokemon Legends ZA comes out. So for right now, maybe I'll try and like how we had Wasp Ranger, It's Only Magic on for Metroid. And obviously we have Brett Floss on as a guest. I want to see if I could find like a Kirby guy to get on the pod next week. I'll see what I can do. But for right now, is there anything else you wanted to talk about on this week's installment of Switch 2 Ultra?
I'm good. I think we're good.
All right, I think we're all caught up. And next week, we'll tune back in. I shouldn't have closed that tab because I still needed the outro song. We'll tune back in for more Kirby. I don't know if you intend on playing Starcross Road, but we can at least talk about Air Riders. I really hope there is a lot there to go over. And I
think there will be.
It just explains a lot of Kirby Air Riders. But for today, for this week, I have been your co-parent BH Ultra.
And I have been your co-parent Switchy.
And I'm going to hang up the phone. Anyone that wanted to see my ranking, take a nice little screenshot, and then you're caught up on all my opinions on everything. Goodbye. Bye-bye.